Hi, I'm Beth Strathman, leadership and team coach, and I'm here today with Dr. Liz Stincelli. And today we are following up on a previous video we did on conflict with how to actually, or things to consider as you go in to resolve a conflict. So Liz, conflict, one of our favorite topics. As you think about ways to resolve conflict, effective ways to resolve conflict, what starts to come into your mind?
The first thing that comes to my mind is communication. And we're not just talking any type of communication. I want you to consider a couple things when you're communicating. First of all, are you talking to the right people? Nothing will escalate conflict more than when you go around airing your dirty laundry to everyone but the person you should actually be talking to.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
So we want to make sure that we are talking to the right people. We want to use the right communication approach, the right medium. We tend to want to use email and texting because we feel like we get to take one step away from the conflict in doing that. If you're in the midst of a conflict, an email or a text is probably not going to help matters. You're probably going to make matters worse. How many times do you get an email, something you read it and you're just like, you do not get that back and forth. You can't read the body language. You read it with the intent that you have in your mind, not necessarily with the intent it was sent. So, think of how you're sending it, and then timing. While you don't want to react instantly, the longer we let issues draw out, the harder it is to resolve them. So we want to kind of tackle these and put them to bed, kind of like they say, like in your marriage, don't go to bed angry. We don't want to let this drag on and on and on. It just tends to feed into other issues and start snowballing. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that whole going behind, having side conversations about it with other people. I mean, that is a sure sign that somebody in some shape or form might be avoiding the conflict because they want to get everything out of their system, but they don't want to have the real conversation that's going to really resolve the issue, right? And in some respects, they still want to be right. So they find people who might be sympathetic to them just to kind of bolster their rightness or something. I don't know. I mean, sometimes you do have a conversation to say, I need to have a conversation with so-and-so. I'm not sure how to approach it. Can you help me? That's way different than just saying, you wouldn't believe what so-and-so did, and I'm so mad about it, whatever. So totally. Having it with the right people at the right time in the right manner is key. So you got to set yourself up for success there. One thing that strikes me is going into a conversation or conversation about conflict. And when you read like Crucial Conversations, which is a great resource, and their other book from Vital Smarts, Crucial Confrontations, very similar books, but one's kind of more business related, one's more just generally related. And other ways of resolving conflict, I'm thinking of nonviolent communication. There's an analysis that we'll share in just a minute, fault-free conflict analysis. But when you look at all those processes for resolving conflict, I think one of the things that kind of stands out to me is when you want to resolve an issue, you have to yourself be a bit vulnerable. Like in Crucial Conversations, you master your story, right? You own your part. How did you contribute? What was your part that you played in that particular conflict? And I think that's sort of counterintuitive for some people in conflict because we want to be right. And when you want to be right, it's really hard to enter into a discussion kind of putting out there, hey, I may be wrong. Here's what I know. So your thoughts on that?
Well, and when you're entering this conversation, even if you are fairly sure that you're right, you still may have handled it wrong. Mm-hmm. So, owning your role in this whole situation is very important, because, we said it takes two to fight. It's, you're playing, you fed this in some way. So whether it's how you've handled it, how you've approached it, how you've communicated, who you've talked to, somehow you have played a role in feeding this conflict.
Right. And I think, that goes to, you've got to be vulnerable and own your role in it, because it's only, your perspective is only one perspective. You're going into this conflict in one respect of trying to find out the perspective of another, that you really don't know all the inner and outer workings of that. So interesting.
Well, and one more thought on that, remembering that we can only control our thoughts, our words, our actions. We cannot control anyone else. So, we get very frustrated with that because we want to just make them see our point of view. It's making changes in ourselves so that we can, sit down, share our points of view, share our stories with each other. We need to, have that empathy, be able to look at it from another person's point of view, and go into it truly, authentically wanting to find a resolution.
Yeah. Yeah. And that kind of leads to the notion, they mention this in Crucial Conversations and Confrontations, this idea of making it safe. So what do you want to say about that?
When we're fearful, we're never going to have productive conversations. The more afraid we are, the more we're going to avoid having the conversations altogether. The more fearful we are, the less likely we are to really speak, about what we truly feel, how we truly see things. And, no one wants to live in that environment. We don't want to work in that environment. It almost makes it, it's so uncomfortable. It's almost, I have lost the word, Beth. It's kind of like a hostile. When we don't feel safe, it's almost a hostile environment.
Yeah.
And we don't want to work in that, and we definitely don't want to try to resolve conflict in that type of environment.
Right. Yeah. Well, I know that you know about Crucial Conversations and Confrontations, that process, which is a great process. Many people are familiar with it, and it works. Did you want to go through this other?
Yeah, I think that so you presented to me this fault-free conflict analysis, and I actually hadn't seen it laid out just like this before, and I think it's kind of a great process, and I thought it would be really helpful if we could kind of walk through that.
Okay, great. And I think this is, you'll see some similarities with Crucial Conversations too. So, it's a little bit more compact of a process, but anyway, I think that the first step is, when you're sitting down with someone, reconfirm what's positive about that person or working with that person. Liz, I've always liked working with you because I know I can rely on you to get things done on time. Something like that, Don't make something up, make it genuine and true. So I think that's a good way to start. And that kind of ties in with the safety aspect and trying to come in, starting from the heart, I think they talk about in Crucial Conversations. So, you're just trying to set a tone of, I'm not here to fight with you. I'm here to resolve an issue, right? And the second step is then you go into basically what the frustration you have is with what's happening. They call it the task analysis. So, and both parties can do this, right? So it doesn't just have to be led by one party or the other. Something like, I'm, such and such happened, and what I'm trying to achieve is X. I'm trying to get the third quarter statements out by such and such a date, right? This is what I'm trying to accomplish. And what's causing me some difficulty for that, here's what I'm having difficulty doing. I'm not able to do that. I feel a little bit hamstrung because I don't have the information from you yet, right? There's information I'm waiting on. And if I don't get that information, it's going to cause a problem for, someone down the line, and whoever that is, right? I'm not going to get out the information to shareholders, whatever. And so then you ask for what you want. Can I count on you to get XYZ information to me by 5 o'clock tomorrow? Something like that. So be very specific about it. So that's sort of the task analysis. And if the other person has something that they're waiting on, well, I'd love to do that, but I'm still waiting from you for X, Y, and Z, right? And once I get that, then I think it'll flow a little bit better, something like that. Any thoughts on that, Liz?
So I think that's very kind of a clear process. It's the what do I need? Why do I need it? And then the ask. And that's the ask is something that I think we leave out of the equation sometimes. Have we actually asked for what we specifically need? Like you said, be specific, not in general. Sometimes I need some very simple information, but what I get is a huge, complicated spreadsheet that took forever to create. The information I needed should have taken an hour to put together, but the person who I'm asking for, to provide me with this information has interpreted it into this huge task. So be specific about what you need. Just ask for it.
Yeah. And don't assume that people know what's going on inside your head, right? We don't have all the same expectations and assumptions about things.
Absolutely.
And after that, then either or both of you, the person who is making the request can say, I want to feel confident that I've got good information and that I can get it timely to whoever needs it next. Right now, I'm not feeling confident. Right now, I'm a little bit hesitant because I feel like, we're not going to look good, to the next person down the line or to the CEO or whomever. And it's what's making me feel this way is the fact that I guess I have this need to get things done ahead of time, a little bit ahead of time. And so I'm a little anxious that we're not going to meet the deadline, down the road, something like that. So you're just owning what's kind of driving your need to have this conversation.
Well, and that in conversations I've had, that actually goes a long way to helping you to understand each other, because some of us approach things at different emotional levels. And when we understand, okay, we're going to be working together for a long time, it's good for you to understand, what makes me feel comfortable, how I operate. I want to understand what makes you feel comfortable, how you operate, so that going forward, we can work together with that in mind.
Yeah, exactly. You're being very vulnerable and transparent there when you're sharing that information. And then after that, the two of you can actually work together to generate a solution to make whatever has been requested happen, right? So a little action planning maybe could happen then, etc. But the solution needs to work for both of you, right?
Yes, it's as we emphasized in our previous video, this isn't a win, someone wins and someone loses.
Right.
Like, when you're working through this process, you're a team. You have a shared goal. You have, something at the end of the day that you come to work every day to achieve this, as a team, even if you're in different departments.
Right.
So we either all win or we all lose. So
right.
how can we make this work for both of us?
Right. And this process, reconfirm what's positive, do the task analysis by, telling them what you're trying to achieve and why and what you need. The emotional analysis, which is, this is how I'm feeling, this is how I want to feel, let's make it happen. And this is what's making me feel that way. And then generating solutions together. That process comes, or I learned it from David Clutterbuck and Peter Hawkins, who are two folks out of the UK, master coaches who I'm taking classes from. So I really like it, and I try to practice it with my clients too. So.
Well, and practice. We will get better at this process as we practice it, and as we become conscious of how we're acting or responding to others and to situations around us.
Yeah.
Yep. Any final thoughts?
No, I think that'll do it.
Well, we would love to hear, your feedback and anything that, if you have anything to add about, dealing with conflict, how we can resolve conflict, and, having some of these effective conversations that inevitably we are all going to have. So please share below, and thank you for joining us.